Hello there, this is Daniele from Toolchefs, and in this video I'm going to show you the new Perch module. So the Perch module, what does, it lets you have agents moving in 3D and then having them landing on a high field when a certain conditions are met. So for this case, for this video, I'm gonna use the man, so just basically that you can test this on your own later. As you can see here, I've created one agent and it's pointing down, so the direction is 1, -1. The state machine, I have set the state to 0, which is basically the initial state. The high field is set, so we're gonna need this when basically the agent actually lands on this plane. Then also other two things that I changed are the set state on agent creation only, because I want the state machine module only to set the state at the beginning of the simulation, and the behave 3D option on, because of course at the beginning of the simulation the agent will be actually flying. Okay, so another thing, if you have a landing mesh which is like 3D, so it's like a sphere or something like that, you also have to make sure that the gravity field is set. Otherwise the agent won't move properly on top of that mesh when it lands. Okay, so before we can continue and use the Perch module, we need to change a little bit our setup. So I'm going to open the Atoms UI. I'm going to duplicate the main idle. I'm just going to use exactly the clips that I have here already. So what I have to do here is I have to enable the perching. So basically when you enable the perching, this graph is shown, and this is basically just a factor that tells Atoms when the agent is on the ground. So because this is the fly clip, this is never going to be on the ground, so the value is always going to be 0. But if you have, for instance, a transition clip, you can like add the keyframes here and say at this frame basically the agent has landed. In our case, again, the value should always be 0. And for this clip in particular, I'm also going to change the velocity. So I'm going to change the velocity operator and set the velocity to 10, so that basically can move in space. I'm going to register this. I'm going to also change the man idle. So I'm just going to enable the perching, and I'm just going to set the value to be 1. Because of course we're going to use this clip for the landing, so the value here should be 1. And then also I'm gonna change also the walk, and then I'm gonna set this to 1. So it's very important that you enable the perching and set this perching factor on all the clips that are, the landing clips, the clips that you use for takeoff, the clips that are before the takeoff or before the landing or after the landing or after the takeoff. So all those clips should really have this factor enabled and with some meaningful values. Otherwise you will see unpredictable result. Basically this value is used by Atoms for interpolating the position from whenever it's in mid-air to the ground, and also when it's on the ground whenever to the fly position. So it's gonna make more sense later. So I'm gonna register this one as well. And also I want to make sure that the state machine has a new state, which we're gonna call fly. I'm gonna set the blend frames to 50 and 50. So this one is gonna be fly to idle, and then walk to fly. Something like that, and then fly here. I'm gonna have fly as a clip. So okay, so basically now our state machine is ready. If you, of course, you want to go from idle to fly, or you want to go from prime to walk, you have to. It's just a matter of setting up the connections, and maybe even in the case where you want to go to fly to walk, it's also a matter of setting the right transition clip. So okay, so this will be sorted out for the perching. Okay, so register. So now if I set the state to 4, which is the flight state, our agent should be moving. But of course, as you can see, basically it's intersecting the ground. So to fix this, we have to do a couple of things. So I'm going to use the point finder, and then also I'm going to use the Perch module after this one. So the point finder, what it does is basically it finds an intersection with an high field. So I'm going to specify here the high field, depending on the agent position or direction. So let's say here we have the distance here to be 500. Sorry, 500. and I want to make sure that we set the metadata. So basically the position that is going to be found on the high field is going to be stored within this metadata, inside this metadata. And if I enable the debug, if I press play, we see that basically it found a closest point after a few frames, and basically it's keeping track of it because the method here at the moment is set to closest point. We have some options here. So find once, only make sure that the point is found once. In case you disable it, it keeps finding the point and setting it in the target position. Erase metadata, make sure that the agents, when it is a distance further than 500 frames to the point that it has found on the high field, it will actually erase this metadata, so it won't be used. It won't be there anymore. You can of course also store the up vector of the on the point on the mesh. So basically that's because it's going to be the normal of the mesh at that point, on that point. So if I press play now again, we just see the closest point, but in our case we're going to use the intersection with the direction, and this is because basically the point that is going to be found is going to be the landing position, and if it's just below the agent, because Atom is going to interpolate the position from the current position to the landing position. If it's basically just beneath the agent, then the animation won't look very nice. So yeah, using the direction is what we want in this case. So then at this point we can also set the perch module. And here the first thing that we want to do is actually to set the position metadata, which is basically the metadata that tells that contains the position of the landing position. So you can set this however you want, but of course because we are using the point finder, it is basically the position that is found by the point finder. And you can of course also provide the up vector here with the metadata, so it would be something like that. And this is very useful, especially if you have 3D meshes like a sphere, or anyway a mesh that is uneven, and you want to use also that up vector as landing up vector for the agent. But if you don't care about that and you want maybe to use the agent up vector or a user value, you can use directly that. So this is gonna actually what I'm gonna use. So it's gonna be 0, 1, 0. But if you specify here anything, it will actually override whatever is set here for the up vector mode. So the landing distance, I'm gonna use 350, and the perch state, which is basically the landing state, is gonna be 0. I'm gonna disable the takeoff for a second here. Then we have the sight angle. So the sight angle, what it does is, you know that when we find the intersection, so I'm just gonna stop it here, we also have the direction of the agent. So at this stage, so let's say we have the direction. I'm gonna show it. I'm gonna make it bigger, and I'm gonna. So basically that yellow line is actually the direction. So if the angle between this vector and this vector is more than 10 degrees, it will actually ignore that point and won't actually land on this landing position. I'm just gonna make it a bit bigger. So anyway, this is a nice way to exclude points that are not actually in front of the agents. Let me hide that thing and also remove the debug. So if I press play now, we should see it landing. Yeah. And when it lands, also the foot locking and everything will start, will kick in. So the agent will actually be as it was on the ground from the first frame. So what I want to do now here is also, having the agent start working after a while. So for that, I'm going to use the timer metadata. For the timer metadata, there are few ways in which you can that this can be used. So you can of course specify a timer again. So for instance, it could be 100 and 100 here. And if you don't specify any trigger metadata, it will actually start this timer from the beginning of the simulation. In our case, we want to make sure that this timer is getting triggered when the state becomes 0. So basically, when we start having that interpolation from midair to the landing position, and then when this is the state is set to 0, we want to enable this timer and set the state again to 1. So basically, this is saying after 100 frames, from when we switch to state 0, set the state to 1. So we should see the agent start working after a little bit. One thing that you want to make sure is that actually, let's just change it before then. So basically that this change of state doesn't kick in before the agent has landed, because if you start a different animation that doesn't have any perching factor or any setup for the perching, then actually what will happen, you will see weird results here happening. So which is something that we don't want. So so now it's landing, and let me just make this a bit bigger. So after 150 frames, it should start working. So again, maybe now it's a bit too high. Let's just put it to 100 and 100. Also, as you can see here, we have still the position is still set, and this is because basically the agent is still within the range of 500 units from the landing position. But after it goes out of those 500 units range, it will actually delete the metadata because this option is on. So if you want this off, just if you want this not to be deleted, just make sure to disable this option. Okay, so final thing is what we want to do is also want to make sure that we have a takeoff happening. So for doing that, we can enable the takeoff, and we can set the timer. So the timer for this one, we're just gonna use a very, like let's say 300 frames. 300. The takeoff distance is gonna be 500 and 500. I'm gonna explain you in a second what that means, and then I'm gonna use 40, and the takeoff state is 4 because basically I'm just gonna go again in the fly state. So what happens here is that when the agent lands, this timer is gonna start. So again, this is like a range. So this is the minimum and maximum. So if you provide two values that are the same, it's actually gonna use 300. So it's gonna, because we don't have a range. Same thing for the distance, just gonna use 500. And for finding the the position in midair that where we're gonna interpolate to, it's just gonna basically use that vector of the agent and then describe a cone using this angle, and that position, the takeoff position, and the position is actually gonna be in that cone within an angle of 0 and 40. And there's going to be 500 units far than the current position of the agents at takeoff. If you don't want to use the timer, you can use a metadata. So when this bool metadata is going to be set to 1, then actually the takeoff is going to start and the timer is going to be ignored. So anyway, if this is set, the timer is ignored. If it is not set, it's just going to use the timer. You can also make sure that the agent doesn't try to land again after like within a range. So you can say, I don't want the agents to land in the next 400 frames, and this is how you do it. So now I'm gonna press play. I'm just gonna make this frame range, sorry, a bit too big, 600, something like that. So now I'm gonna start working, and then we should see it. Okay, so here in my scene, what I've done is I've created a sphere layout with some butterflies, a state machine. These guys are just trying to reach the sphere, and the sphere is actually pushing them away with this magnet field. And then whenever they are close enough, they are actually gonna land. So the setup is exactly the same. Of course, it's just a different case here. The state machine makes sure that in this case, I made sure that I have both the height field but also the gravity field set, so that basically when the agents land on the sphere, they are actually their up vector is actually correct. So so you see some butterflies already landed there, the other ones are moving away. And this is how you can use the Perch module. Thanks for watching.